Hey everyone, Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton here with a special weekly update for you from CPAC. Good to be with you this week. Thanks for joining us on social media. A lot going on here at CPAC. I hope you've been watching our coverage. We've had a lot of great guests interviewed by my colleague Amelia. You can see all of those interviews on our YouTube channels and other media such as Rumble, and I guess it's on Twitter and Facebook and everywhere else. So Judicial Watch is full force here at CPAC, and of course I'll be speaking tomorrow here at CPAC on Saturday. I have a Saturday morning speech, so be sure to tune in. It's going to be the second most, well, I don't know, maybe it will be more important than President Trump's speech. He's speaking tomorrow as well, so I'll let you to be the judge of that. But I'm so pleased to be here at CPAC, and Judicial Watch has been a long-time sponsor and supporter of CPAC. It's an important place for the conservative movement to meet. We get all the activists coming, we have all the students coming, we have a lot of supporters here as well of Judicial Watch, and of course all the politicians come to explain themselves. I like CPAC because it's an accountability event as well, where the politicians have to come and tell conservatives what they're doing on behalf of limited government and to protect the nation from the threats of the left. So I encourage you to watch my CPAC speech tomorrow. I'll give you a little bit of a preview. I'll talk about why things aren't as bad as they otherwise could be, mainly because of Judicial Watch, but also mainly because of the left. The left is, I encourage people to watch what the left is doing because they help us figure out what it is we're supposed to be doing. They're focused on specific topics and specific narratives and specific targets, and so that directs us, at least should direct our attention as well. They're targeting our children. Well, that means we got to protect our children. They're targeting our elections. That means we got to protect our elections. They're targeting the courts. They're targeting the rule of law. That means we need to protect the courts and protect the rule of law as has traditionally been understood. They're targeting our free speech rights. They're targeting our ability to speak on the internet and on online social media. So that means we need to protect our free speech rights, protect our right to speak under the First Amendment. And of course, they're targeting our understanding, our traditional understanding of the core value that everyone deserves equal treatment under the law. And of course, if you promote critical race theory, that means you reject that. You're a racialist, you're promoting Marxism and anti-Americanism and anti-constitutionalism. So we have to protect the theory that everyone's equal under the law. Protect the idea that we have a colorblind society, or at least we ought to be working towards that, as opposed to pushing for segregation, which is what the left is doing. So those are all the kind of themes I'll be talking about at CPAC, and how Judicial Watch is addressing the attacks of the left, whether it be attacking our society through critical race theory, or attacking the very notion of free and fair elections. Judicial Watch has had many successes in that regard recently. So a lot to talk about at the speech. But you know, this is the weekly update, and I want to get back to what we typically do at the weekly update, which is to provide you with updates about what's going on here in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere as it relates to corruption and significant advances and activities that Judicial Watch is undertaking to protect the rule of law and to advance the notion of transparency. I mean, first up is the big news about the Wuhan virus, or the China virus. I don't know, are we allowed to even call it the China virus or the Wuhan virus? COVID-19. Now, the Department of Energy leaked to the Wall Street Journal earlier this week that they have concluded that it was likely that the Wuhan virus escaped from the lab, namely the Wuhan lab. Now, of course, the left has gone crazy because that goes against their narrative that anyone who believes that the Wuhan virus was the result of a lab leak was certifiable and should be censored. Now, they've gone out of their way to highlight how the FBI is the only other agency that agrees with them here, and how the other deep state agencies don't necessarily agree. Now, what is specifically interesting about this is, again, this is the Biden administration, a key agency that has really scientific expertise, unlike many other agencies looking at this, that has agreed with, I think, the common sense analysis that the lab was, that the leak occurred at the Wuhan lab. And why is that important? What's important about it isn't that there was a leak out of the lab. Obviously, that's interesting. But if that took place, it was likely to result of gain-of-function research funded by the US government. That's why they're so nervous about it. It's not the idea that there was a lab leak, it's the idea that it was in the lab. And this lab was funded by you, dear taxpayer, to the tune of millions of dollars, not only through Fauci's agencies, but other federal agencies. And they were involved, we now know, because of Judicial Watch's litigation, a gain-of-function research, which essentially messes with viruses or biological, other biologics to make them potentially more dangerous. And the thinking is, well, we want to know if a virus gets more dangerous, how it is we can deal with it. Well, that risk is too great to be foisting upon the world, frankly, when you're messing with dangerous pathogens such as COVID, etc. So this is a major development. It's the Biden administration admitting that it's raining out, meaning that there's a likelihood of the lab leak. And so now the media doesn't know what to do. Even the Biden administration doesn't know what to do. I mean, the other outrageous thing that took place this week is that the Biden White House, someone speaking for the Biden White House and for the President of the United States, Jack Kirby, said that Biden supports gain-of-function research. Now, I don't know about you, but there should be no gain-of-function research, other than for, frankly, weapons research and development. But the idea that you allow U.S. funding to go to this inherently dangerous and risky process that could end the world as we know it if it got out of control is just beyond me. And so now we've got Fauci out of office, but we still have the president, for instance, supporting his most dangerous policy, which is gain of function. So now we have President Fauci in terms of gain of function research through the Biden White House. So these are dangerous times, but again, it's Judicial Watch has been second to none in uncovering the details about what was going on at Wuhan, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Fauci was funding gain-of-function research. We've got the documents. We have the grant application detailing how it is gain-of-function research, and showing that when Fauci was telling folks, and specifically testifying under oath, that it wasn't gain-of-function research, he wasn't telling the truth. So as far as I'm concerned, there needs to be a criminal investigation into the gain-of-function scandal that relates to Fauci's lying about it potentially, and the fraud that took place where EcoHealth and these federal agencies were pretending they weren't funding gain-of-function research, violating rules and doing it anyway. So that's where we stand on the Wuhan virus. And it's, again, further vindication of those of us who would have been censored for saying this not that long ago. Now another intelligence branch of our government believes that the Wuhan lab was behind the leak of COVID-19, which we've been told is the worst thing that's ever happened in modern history. Now, Judicial Watch continues to push for information related to COVID, gain of function, the vaccines, the whole controversy around treatments, and I can't tell you the number of lawsuits. I don't know if I could track the number of lawsuits that we have about these various topics. But I do know that we've been able to get thousands of documents and pretty much everything anyone knows about gain of function and vaccine safety and efficacy and what we were doing in Wuhan is the result of Judicial Watch litigation and Freedom of Information Act research. And we have these new documents that just came out. I'm at CPAC here, so I got to use my phone. So we have this new spate of documents that came out about ivermectin and the recommendation by British experts to federal officials here in the United States that ivermectin be used as a treatment for COVID. Now, I don't know what they were recommending. Why? Because they're hiding the documents from us. And of course, they rejected that treatment protocol, and they're hiding the reasons about why they rejected that treatment protocol. This is where we stand. It's now 2 or 3 years into the COVID controversy, and there's still this debate about ivermectin. And I know some people say it doesn't work. There are a lot of studies that say it doesn't work. There's some studies and others who swear by it. And so you would think there'd be keen efforts by the Biden administration to let the truth come out, that you had this group of experts recommend it, and that recommendation was rejected. And why was it rejected? We don't know, because the Biden administration is withholding the information from you, the American people. But we did at least get out, through our Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, details that show that they were put in a corner by this recommendation. We received 254 pages from the Department of Health and Human Services that included emails of then Director of National Institutes of Health, Francis Collins. So he was essentially Fauci's boss. NIH is an agency, and NIAID, which is the National Institutes of Allergic and Infectious Diseases, run by Fauci, is a sub-agency of NIH. So this group was sending emails not only to a bunch of leaders in the FDA, but it looks like the material then was sent on to other figures like Collins. So back in February 2021, a leading British physician, Dr. Tess Lowry, she was director and founder of a doctors organization called the British Ivermectin Recommendations Development Group. They call it BIRD for short. Emailed 31 top officials at the FDA with recommendations about ivermectin treatment for COVID. And what happened is these FDA folks then forwarded that material on to Fauci and Francis Collins at NIH. And they suggested, this BIRD group, that ivermectin be approved immediately for the prevention and treatment of COVID-19. The British Ivermectin Recommendation Development Panel recommends ivermectin for the prevention and treatment of COVID-19 to reduce morbidity and mortality associated with COVID-19 infection and to prevent COVID-19 infection among those of higher risk. And that was this was emphasized in the original document, at least parts of it. The steering group has taken the heed of the WHO statement, World Health Organization, on, quote, developing global norms for sharing data and results during public health emergencies, that states that public disclosure of information of relevance to public health emergencies should not be delayed, and also notes the very great risk that can occur from withholding data and results arising from analyses. We are therefore sharing this evidence to decision framework within just a few days of the BIRD meeting to avoid delay. Further, due to the urgency related to the communication and dissemination of this recommendation that is aimed at saving thousands of lives daily, please forgive the limitations of the draft proceedings document attached. Information on the process and methods can be found among the annexes. An executive summary is being finalized and will be available on Monday. So these folks were acting on an emergency basis, following standard protocols. If you've got a solution to a public health emergency, you should let the experts and those in responsible positions know as soon as they can. So this group had met. They had come to a consensus about the use of ivermectin. They rushed that material out to FDA. They rushed it to Fauci, and there it died. Now, of course, they did respond, and there's email trains showing there was a response to this emergency recommendation about ivermectin, but they've deleted that, or excuse me, they blacked it out, they redacted it in the materials. It's entirely redacted. I guess we could show you the email showing how everything's blacked out, but you've got this emergency recommendation. They're hiding the details of it, and rather than act on it, or even, or in my view, they should have shared the reasons they didn't buy into it with us, at least through this FOIA. They're hiding it from the American people. And as I say, rather than educate the public about the supposed reasons for their rejection of the ivermectin use recommendation, the FDA, NIH, and Fauci's former agency have blacked out their responses in these documents. So we've gotten this major success in highlighting how ivermectin was recommended by a serious group of physicians in February of 2021, but they didn't want to do anything about it, and it's evidently they're so concerned about what that recommendation is and what their response is that they're willing to hide it from you, the American people. I know many of you are concerned about the corruption here in Washington, D.C., and specifically the worst corruption scandal in American history, which is the abusive spying on and targeting of President Trump, the basis of which was this Russia collusion hoax that everyone knew was a lie, but they used it as a way to try to drive him from office, harass him, prevent him from getting into office, and trying to prosecute him. A wild abuse of power by the Obama administration initially, followed on by the deep state. Now, former Trump Attorney General Barr appointed John Durham as to investigate this issue, this corruption, and then just before he left, he appointed him as special counsel. And it's now been, I think, when did he first get appointed? In 2019? It's now 2023. So there's been 3 prosecutions, one of which turned out to be kind of a weak sister in the sense that an FBI lawyer official admitted to messing with evidence in the FISA warrant used to justify the targeting of the Trump world, but he got a slap on the wrist. He pled out, and he's still a lawyer. 2 other charges, which one was against the lawyer for the Hillary Clinton campaign, who's alleged to lie to the FBI about the reason he was there. He was there for Hillary and not there as a citizen, which was kind of an odd charge to bring since everyone probably knew what he was really there for. That case, that lawyer was found innocent. And then they tried to charge a Russian who helped write the dossier. The problem they had there, Durham did, was that this Russian ended up being a source for the FBI, even after they knew he was a Russian intelligence person, or they should have known. And by the way, Clinton had this Russian, by the way, write the dossier for her. So you've got all this evidence of the Clinton campaign and senior officials being involved in this corruption. What does Durham do? He charges these, relatively speaking, lower level folks. And as best I can tell, it's all over. I mean, I guess it's possible there'll be more prosecutions, but I don't think it's likely. And so the best we can get at Durham at this point is a special report, which is frustrating because Judicial Watch could write a special report. You know, we don't need a prosecutor to write a report. We need prosecutors to prosecute. So in my view, Durham, at least to date, has been a big fail. I mean, he's gotten out some interesting information about Clinton lies, highlighting more reasons to prosecute Hillary, but nothing's been done. And it's our money. And one of the things that Judicial Watch does is investigate what's going on with these deep state special counsels. And one of the things we did was we sued to get access to basic budget information about what Durham was doing. And more interestingly, or as interestingly, communications between Durham and Attorney General Garland about this investigation. Now, needless to say, they haven't given us jack in terms of communications between Garland and Durham yet. Initially, they didn't want to give us jack about the amount of money that Durham has been spending, but we finally forced it out of them thanks to Judicial Watch's tenacious litigation, and found that the special counsel Durham's budget for 2022, just 3 prosecutions, again, by the way, those prosecutions began long before 2022, the budget was over $8.5 million. So I don't know about you, but I don't think we've gotten our money's worth from Durham, given the amounts of money not only spent in 2022, but previously. Durham was, as I said, he was appointed to serve back in October of 2020. He was appointed as special counsel, I think, a year or so ahead of that. And, you know, it's been, I don't know where he is. I just don't understand how it is that we could have someone have such a wide and broad responsibility and do so little. And I guess I do understand. It's the Justice Department, it's Trump, it's protecting Hillary, it's protecting Biden, it's protecting Obama, and I guess no matter who's doing it, it's just going to happen the way it's been happening. As I said, the Justice Department initially produced budget records back in June of 2022, but they redacted the actual numbers. So it took almost 6 months for them to give us the numbers. Why is it a state secret that that he spent $8.5 million? It tells you that maybe they're embarrassed about it. They spent $1.8 million on personnel. Non-reimbursable costs were $2.3 million, $500,000 of which was travel, and then you had the rent, and then other contractual services, which was $1.2 million. They had detailees, meaning other agency officials who were working temporarily for the special counsel, and other investigative staff, for a total of only 15 personnel. So they really didn't have a big office there. And as I said in our press release, Special Counsel Durham has spent millions in tax dollars to investigate the worst government corruption scandal in American history, the abuse of Trump, to little good end. And it speaks volumes that we had to file a federal lawsuit to get basic budget information about this historic investigation. And I tell you, the fact that they're still hiding records about his communications with Garland only adds to the scandal. So I sure wish Durham had done more. I guess I shouldn't be surprised he hasn't. And I've been warning folks for years. I didn't see any evidence that he was doing anything terribly serious on these investigations. But I can tell you that Judicial Watch continues to investigate this scandal. We have ongoing lawsuits, some of which we just filed, to uncover Obama's role in this abuse, to get more details on Biden's corruption. And frankly, we have a hearing next week about another aspect of this corruption, which was the media collusion with the FBI and Justice Department to target folks close to Trump. In this case, it was Paul Manafort, who at the time, I guess, was Trump's former campaign director. Judicial Watch sued and uncovered how the Associated Press went to the FBI and Justice Department and gave the Manafort's security codes to his personal locker. I guess he had a storage locker. And the documents show, I mean, it was public that that had taken place, but the documents show that they were working hand in glove with each other and that they were sharing information with the AP, the Justice Department was, and the AP obviously was rooting for the prosecution of Manafort, which subsequently happened. So you would think that would be a straightforward FOIA request. It was one meeting. How many documents could there be? Well, one of the lawyers, they didn't search his records about the meeting. And so much time has passed, the records may have been destroyed, even though they knew they might be responsive to Judicial Watch. So we have a federal court hearing on this potential destruction of evidence related to the abusive targeting of Trump World. And that hearing is next week here in Washington, D.C. in federal court. So I don't know what Durham's doing, but Judicial Watch hasn't stopped, nor will we stop investigating. And we're going to investigate it as long as we can and as long as it takes reasonably to get to the bottom and to expose the outrageous corruption by the Justice Department targeting Trump. And it's not like it's old news, because the same group is still targeting him. There was this big story in the Washington Post just this past week talking about how the FBI really didn't want to raid Trump's home. I mean, do I believe that? Maybe. But one of the lawyers involved in trying to get Trump's home abusively raided was George Toscas. Toscas was one of the lawyers harassing Trump on the Russia collusion hoax. He was one of the lawyers protecting Hillary on her emails, and he shows up as one of the lawyers pushing for a raid on Trump's home. This same crowd continues to abuse and harass Trump. There's nothing old, and everything is new as far as I'm concerned when it comes to this wild abuse of Trump. And I'm convinced that they don't want to fight Trump at the ballot box. They see the best way to beat him politically is by misusing federal law enforcement agencies to target him for political purposes. It's as much election intervention as anything you'll see in recent history, this targeting of Trump by the Justice Department and the FBI, and Judicial Watch aims to get to the bottom of it. So with that, I hope you tune in to all of our great reports here at CPAC. I hope you watch my speech. I hope you watch all the other great speeches. There are a lot of great speakers here. And I hope if you're here at CPAC, you stop by, say hello to our folks at our booths, where we have a media booth upstairs and a traditional booth downstairs. And CPAC is just one of many events that Judicial Watch supports as we try to educate you, the American people, about the crisis facing our republic. I'll see you here next time on the Judicial Watch Weekly Update. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.